Dear God, I'm ready for your help in removing from me the defects of character which I now realise are an obstacle to my recovery. Help me to continue being honest with myself and guide me towards spiritual and mental health. Amen. Okay, it's with much love and gratitude that the group welcomes Babe Kay to come and share with us. Over to you, Babe.
Hi, kids, Babe Alcoholic. Yeah, what Katie said. Thanks for letting me share. and please, what I'm going to talk about is the way I view Step 6 and the way my experience with Step 6 and 7, and the way you work your program might be entirely different. I was talking to Monica before the meeting a couple hours ago, and I never know exactly where I'm going to start. Step 6 and 7, there's a lot of different ways to look at them. We can start with the set-aside prayer that Katie said. I don't know what's wrong with me. And we can talk about dualism. Bill asked a question. He thought he was being a smartass. He said, hey, if it's by God's grace, why do I have to do anything? And that's the question of our life. Purdy said we're all different, but we are alike. That's a paradox. Life is a huge paradox, seeming opposites, but both are true. So is it by grace that I'm recovered, or is it my responsibility? And the answer is yes, it's both. And I think the way we approach Step 6 actually probably goes back to our Step 1, as my complete defeat. And, there's the biggest paradox too, isn't it? When we're completely defeated, now I can win. Those are opposites, and they're both true. I'm not going to get to that absolute humility. I may get to that if I ever get to Step 7. This is, like I said, this might take 10 minutes. It might take 10 hours. At Cartel, Purdy had me talking about love, and I'm thinking, how am I going to talk 45 minutes on love? And I ran out of time. So I'll probably run out way on Step 6 and 7 as well. But we come in here baffled. No wonder we're baffled. Life seems to be throwing us all these curves. We don't know what is wrong. I don't know if there's a God, but I'm beat to the point, am I going to die an alcoholic death or get spiritual help? And well, geez, there's got to be a door number 3. But so how well is my Step 1 beating me into a state of, I got no more answers. God, please help me. Just what Katie said, guide me to some kind of recovery, some kind of life. I don't know what I'm doing, and I need help. And so I'm willing in Step 2. Then Step 3, it's the keystone for all the steps. Bill in the 12 and 12 says the whole effectiveness, the whole rest of the program, which he could say the whole rest of our life, depends on how earnestly we commit to turning our will and our lives over to the care of God. So is that just getting on my knees and mumbling that prayer like it's a magic spell? Or am I really willing to abandon myself utterly to this thing that I don't even know if it exists? See, Step 1, my way doesn't work. How am I playing God? Some people, the people working on their character defects, I believe are still playing God. They think they can fix them. And the way I see this is that's not the point anyway. Someone on here does not like the phrase progress, not perfection. That's just an excuse for misbehavior. What it says is progress toward perfection. So what am I doing in Step 3? My Creator or my God, I'm ready. I offer myself to you. Build with me and do with me. That's a little aiming toward perfection. Build with me and do with me what? As He will. I put in my newest one. I started out after my first 5th step. My ideal was to be considerate to every one of God's kids. Just be considerate. I could still hate your guts, but I would show you consideration. And so, but this whole build with me and do with me grows and grows and grows. And relieve me of the bondage of self. Why? Well, 2 paragraphs ago, you told me if I don't get rid of the selfishness, it's going to kill me. Or my sponsor says I'm in bondage to myself. This thing apparently I don't speak clearly because this thing wants to know if I'm speaking English. and Purdy says you're not, you're speaking American, you goof. But what is this bondage of self? Bondage of self can actually mean that I'm going to fix my character defects. Bondage of self might be that I know what is wrong with you. A bondage of self is when I'm living a dualistic life. I see only things right or wrong, black or white, good or bad. We'll get to that in step 7. So help me see both sides. Then take away my difficulties. Well, who doesn't want their difficulties taken away? Why? So I can come on here and tell you guys this is a life beyond our wildest dreams if we just do these simple things. God has been so good to me, I just want to tell everyone. And that's the approach. And what does it say? What's our objective in step 3? That's another way we can look at these steps. What is my objective? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Our objective is to draw close to God and perform his work well. But I can't because I'm filled with resentment. I'm filled with fear, and I'm running on selfish, self-centered personal relationships. I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. And that ain't fair, damn it. Because it says anger is the dubious luxury of normal men. I step on your toes and you punch me in the face. You step on my toes and I say, God bless you. I don't like it. Why can't I do this? There's no God. That's why I can't draw close to God and perform his work well. What do we do in the resentments, the world and its people are often quite wrong. And the next page I'm thinking, well, do you use a shotgun or a 45? No, it says we pray for the son of a bitch. This is a sick person just like me. Oh, here we're alike. And I see you as the devil incarnate, the evil twin, whatever you are. In the black and white world, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, or I'm the poor victim, oh, poor me. And that may be a character defect, a little victimhood, pity, self-pity oozing out of every pore. And we pray for that guy, and we get a sense of forgiveness in step 4. Fear. Draw close to God, perform his work well. The Bill flips it in the fear inventory. We're in the world to play the role he assigns. Show me what to do, God. What would you have me be? What would you have me do? We're in the world that's action and thinking. My will and my life, my thoughts and my actions. Is this a program of grace or is it responsibility? And that's why it's both. I'm responsible for taking the action. For me, gratitude lives deep in my heart. Thankfulness is my singing praise, my demonstration of the gratitude that's in my heart. So, and then the relationships inventory, and the way I do it with my sponsees, and I have always done it, it's not just a sex inventory, it's every single relation that I have with God's kids. And so, if you ever do an 8 and 9 meeting, step 8 says that we're trying to have the best possible relations with every human being we know. What an order! I can't go through with it when I'm in step 4. Show me what you would have me be, God. And then in the relationships inventory, the reason it's every relationship, I can arouse jealousy, suspicion, bitterness to the guy standing next to me at work, and I ain't jumping in bed with him. I treat God's kids like dirt. I thought that being impervious was a character asset. And that's kind of cool because it could be both. My total self-sufficiency, I could do a lot of things. I could fix it. I could build it. I could kill it. I could clean it. I could butcher it. I could cook it. I could feed people. I was totally self-sufficient to the point, though, that I was impervious. I didn't cry when my mother died. I didn't cry at her funeral. People were like furniture. I could be nice to you. I liked you, all right. But if you died or moved on, I just deleted you from the Rolodex. And so we look at these things, and I kind of make a big deal when we're doing an inventory, which is the whole reason I'm bringing all this stuff up, that we're supposed to, in prayer and meditation. I'm nowhere near step 11. Well, no, but you're supposed to be praying and meditating in step 4. And what is step 3? But the confirmation with a prayer. So we've actually been praying when I'm puking those nights, kneeling in front of that toilet with contemplating the still waters of the Douglas leader. And Kate, every once in a while, even put down a little prayer mat in front of the toilet. And, oh, God, get me out of this. And you guys were chumps. You would try to make a deal. God, if I live through this, I'll never do this again. I never promised that because I knew I wasn't going to quit. But those prayers are sincere. I'm hurting, big boy. Help me. And apparently he did, because I'm still here. So in prayer and meditation, we have to form the sane and sound ideal of ourselves. And if I can't at least come up with some kind of description of what my ideal is, how am I going to know if I fall short of it? It says if we fall short of our ideal, are we going to drink? Well, I don't even know what my ideal is. So how can I do it? Progress, not perfection. So here's the first time that in the 4th step. And what does it say? We swallow and digest big chunks of truth about ourselves. In the 3rd column in resentments, look at me. What is all this stuff doing? What does it hurt? Is it my pride? Yep. I think pride is the leader of all the 7 deadly sins. So did Bill. He put that in the 12 and 12. And pride, I think, gives rise to envy. Pride every time I feel some sense of pride, I'm playing God. That's me once again saying, I know what's right. I know what's good. And the world is living up to it. Therefore, I'm proud. When it doesn't, it turns me into greed, gluttony, envy, sloth. Sloth is my spirit animal, I've come to believe. I can be a little bit lazy. But nonetheless, those 7 deadly sins are the litany of my character defects. You can put them into the 4 absolutes. But whatever they are, you get a sense of them in step 4. And then you dump your guts in step 5. And I love it in the big book where it says, well, we pocket our pride and go to it. That's our first sense of humility. In the 12 and 12 bill actually talks about humility involved with step 5. So we pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twisted character, every dark cranny of the past. Now, once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared often comes strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Why then do we have anything else to do? That sounds like recovery to me. I've had a spiritual experience. The desire to drink has gone away. What's the point? And we're only at step 5. We're not even halfway through. What possibly can there be even more? Same thing happens in the 12 and 12. Provided you hold back nothing, your sense of relief will mount from minute to minute. The dammed up emotions of years break out of their confinement and miraculously vanish as soon as they're exposed. As the pain subsides, a healing tranquility takes its place. Sounds like recovery, doesn't it? Praise the Lord, I'm healed. Let's get a drink. And when humility and serenity, that's that healing peace. Humility and serenity are so combined, something else of great moment is apt to occur. Many an AA, once agnostic or atheist, tells us that at this stage in step 5, that he first actually felt the presence of God. Even those who had faith already already often become conscious. So there's a spiritual awakening. We become God conscious in the spirituality of step 5. And then the feeling of being at one with God and man, this emerging from isolation through open and honest sharing of our terrible burden of guilt, brings us to a resting place. So here's step 5. We take a breath. Here's a resting place. I finally felt this presence of God. Like Monica talks about, me and you wrapped in the God blanket. And for many of us, if we're totally honest, and this is what I felt, I actually knew what it felt like to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, not just a placeholder. I actually felt the nearness of my Creator. For once in my life, I have ripped the mask off and told another human being everything. And the miracle of it is that healing, peace, and tranquility is you look in their eyes, and what they see, what I saw back was compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love. There's now, at least in this lifetime, there's one other human being that I never have to have any secrets from. I don't have to put on any masks. I don't have to be the showman. I get to just be. Sounds like recovery, doesn't it? Why then do we have to rest? And then it says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. I give people a whole week to contemplate this, because it says the carefully reviewing of what we have done. So when I finish a step 5, I'm supposed to say, what the hell did I just do? I can't believe the way I feel. This is frigging miraculous. And then we thank God from the bottom of our heart. I often ask people when I'm hearing a 5th step, I don't do it all the time, but sometimes I will say, how do you feel? And the hundreds of 5th steps I've heard, not one single person said, I'm delighted, even though this book says we are delighted. But if you take at least the hour, as long as it takes, I reflect on it, but I've been reflecting on it for 22 years now. These 5th steps that I take. And then I find I am indeed delighted. I do thank God from the bottom of my heart. And then we go home and take the book down from our shelves and read the first 5 proposals. What I suggest to people is, what was step 1 like when I got here? What happened, or what is step 1 like now? Has my defeat led to this victory, this wonderful healing tranquility that I felt in step 5? What is step 2? I wasn't even sure if I believed in anything, but did my willingness pay off? Absolutely, because I'm experiencing all this beautiful spiritual awakening in step 5. Step 3, have I drawn close to God, and am I performing His work well? Apparently I'm doing something right, because I know now that there's one person in this world that's going to love me, is always going to have my back, and that I don't have to have any secrets. I don't have to put on any masks. I don't have to impress that person and eventually anybody else. And then step 4, have I been fearless and thorough? Is there something else that is just kind of hiding in the corner? That one little dust bunny under the bed, Fitzmayo fell out of bed and found God. I fell out of bed a lot, and all I did was hit my head and see the dust bunnies under there. But, what's still missing? Because that first 5th step, we don't know ourselves well enough to know ourselves well enough to do a fearless and thorough one. That's why I love going to the 4th and 5th step workshop every year, because it gets bigger and bigger and better and better. But I'm terrified the first time I do it. But now it's a marvelous adventure, however Bill says it. I love to review my day. I love to live in step 10. Grow in understanding and effectiveness. And what does it say there? I will get to 6 and 7, I promise. We're almost there. But step 10, or step 9, the 9th step, the very last of the 9th step promises that nobody pays any attention to. And it's the biggest and best one of them all, but we're all looking at all the cool shit we get in this 9th step, and I call it the 9th step checklist, not 9th step promises. Do I know a new freedom and new happiness? Have I lost my fear of people and of economic insecurity? All those promises are what God has made of me. Build with me and do with me as you will. But then the very last of the 9-step promises, which is the most important, we suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Boom, now we're to step 6, finally. And, heck, you can read the whole thing. If we can answer to our satisfaction those questions, we look at step 6. And we actually look at it with deliberate interest. We don't just look at it, entirely. And use Bill's question. Is it grace or is it responsibility? Now, some people, and if you do it this way, God bless you, because there are many people just as happy and recovered as I am. But sometimes the sponsor will sit there like with a clipboard and just add a few more character defects to some poor bastard's 5th step, already bearing his soul to me. And I'm going to say, oh, yeah, well, what about this? You are really egotistical. You are a prideful son of a bitch, and they come away with a whole clipboard. And you guys have probably seen it. There's a sheet with like 80 character defects on it. My God, suicide should be at the top, and you don't have to worry about the other 79 of them. And they're the Eeyores. They're the people going through life working on their character defects. And what does Bill say? And Bill obviously didn't know what he was writing when he knew it was a big deal. But what he wrote in the big book. So we look at these. Are we ready to let God remove these things which we admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all? Everyone. If we still cling to something we won't let go of, we ask God to help us be willing. And that was Bill's big bugaboo. He did not. And he gets really specific. The 12 and 12 is just Bill's confession after 15 years of recovery. But Bill still wanted to prove to the world that he was something. He did not want to let this stuff go. And Father Ed Dowling got to him. And he convinced Bill that he will never know any humility until he suffers humiliation. I don't know that I buy that. Humiliation definitely leads us to humility, but I've come to find that humility can come at the most beautiful moments too. But for Bill, he had to be totally humiliated till he got enough humility. And then he could detach, and then he could look at the world with different objectives. And that's where Father Ed got Bill to step back. And that's when Bill says, why am I really here? What are my objectives? Is it my pride? Is it my anger? Is it my lust? Is it my envy, my greed, my gluttony? And they're all just pride. How am I still playing God? We can use the 4 absolutes as a yardstick for how well we're doing. I don't need a whole list, because it says in step 4, it says we look at the way all these things manifest. How do they show up in my life? Each one of them, I believe you can stick into some kind of box, whether it's one of the 7 deadly sins, and from my perspective, which all stem from pride. And so, I'm proud to be an American. I pissed somebody off. He left the meeting. He said, I am proud to be an American. Are you, or are you grateful? All I did was crawl out of the hole and I was automatically an American. What does pride have to do with that? That gives me a sense that I have something to do with this. But am I grateful? And that's in the step 7. But so what does Bill say? A certain American clergyman. That's Father Ed. And he's the one that said, Bill, you're still an egotistical asshole. I don't think he probably said it exactly that way. But Bill is saying, no, never. I can't give this up. I don't want to give this up. This is who I am. I'm finally proven to the world that I am something. Why would I give that up? Why would Babe feel like being impervious is an asset? Well, because I'm totally self-reliant, I don't need you. What's that but pride? And that's when those walls had to be torn down. And so I get to look, how am I playing God? If I'm judging the world, that's a huge character defect. And if I'm judging the world, what's that but pride? And if I'm judging that you got more than I do, then that just leads to envy. And then if I see somebody else get it, then it's jealousy. Then I got anger and envy together. And so instead of doing what's right, I'll eat 25 chocolate cakes. And then what's that but gluttony? Using something else to take the place of this prideful character defect, this imperviousness. And what I've learned is the walls that I build around my heart to keep out the pain also kept out the joy. That's what I found in step 5. And that's what I look for. That's the objective in step 6. Tear down the walls. And it says we aim toward the perfect objective, which is of God. And that's why a couple of us here don't like progress, not perfection. We like progress toward perfection. If I have no idea what perfection is, how do I know if I'm getting closer to perfect? Perfect. I don't talk well. And that's when we can throw in the absolutes. I'm never going to be absolutely pure, but just like God, there's a fundamental idea of purity in my heart and in my mind, and I will know when I'm being impure. How does that show up? Lust, greed. I'm not pure. I'm not selfless. I'm not altruistic. I'm selfish and self-centered, playing God again. What about absolute honesty? Am I honest to the point that I use it like a weapon? Or am I honest because I actually care about this person? The honesty that we experience in step 5 is the honesty toward which I try to grow. Humble honesty, not prideful honesty. Absolute unselfishness. You mean I really can't shoot them? You mean I really got to pray for them? You really mean I've got to pray with them? Most of you have heard my racism story. And, they were racists were the number one resentment, my number one fear, because my little granddaughter was a black girl. She was only 3 years old, and I loved that girl more than anything. And I couldn't stand the thought that somebody's going to hate her just because of the color of her skin. And I was at this meeting, and this guy came up. His name is Tim. And he's a spiritual giant. He had a rope burn around his neck. But anyway, he had the swastika tattoo on his hand. I said, well, what's up with that? And he says, I hate black people. That is not what he said. He said, I hate black people. And I said, really? He says, yeah. All of them? Yep, every one of them. I said, you hate my little granddaughter. And he looked at me and he says, what do you mean? I said, my granddaughter's black. At the end of the meeting, he came up to me and he had tears in his eyes. He said, babe, you probably don't want to hold hands and pray with me. And this was God put it right out of my voice. I said, Tim, there's nobody in this world I'd rather hold hands and pray with than you. That's progress toward perfection. Perfect love, perfect humility. This is God's kid too. Perfect unselfishness. Can I really do that? So the 4 absolutes are lovely yardsticks. And there's only 4 of them, so you don't have to remember the opposite of pride, anger, lust, envy, greed, gluttony, and sloth. But what is perfection? My newest concept of perfect is the prayer of St. Francis. Can I bring hope where there's despair? Can I bring love where there is hatred? Can I bring light where there's darkness? Can I bring joy where there's sadness? Or am I just going to wallow along with you? And the ones that are the toughest and the most humbling, it is better to love than to be loved. I just want to love somebody to love me, and they don't because I'm an obnoxious little troll. God, take that away from me. I don't want to be a troll. I still want to be obnoxious, though. So this is the perfection toward which I'm shooting now, the prayer of St. Francis. And how many people, I can't love you till I learn to love myself. In that prayer, it says it is by loving that we learn to love. It is by forgiving that we are forgiven. That's one of the biggest blessings in step 5 that I left feeling that, yes, indeed, I have been forgiven. And now that I have that feeling, I can try to forgive every single person in the world that I think wronged me. So what is progress toward perfection? And if I'm running around just thinking, can I bring a smile to everybody's face? Can I bring a little light to the world? Can I bring a joy to somebody? How can I not be happy? It's new joys, new mysteries, new adventure. Geez, just going to the bathroom is an adventure for me. You know, I'm praying the third step. I got this old 75-year-old prostate and and arthritis. I can barely walk. My knees hurting. I got a bone spur. I'm hobbling. I'm in pain. And I'm trying not to pee down my leg to get to the bathroom. And I'm saying the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee. And I laughed right out loud and almost peed anyway. Because I said, God, you probably don't even want me. I'm a bloody wreck. But God says, welcome, my son. Whether or not you pee down your leg, I still love you. That's progress toward perfection. The perfection which is of God. God loves me. God's, and it sounds egotistical. I'm God's favorite. But you are. I am. Everybody is. We're all the same in the eyes of God. And that's my job, to aim toward that. Just to see you as my brother and sister, to see the face of God in the ugliest of us. It's easy to love them. Bill goes into all that. Nobody wants to be so proud that they're a braggart, or the part that they take out. Nobody's so lustful that they rape. If it makes me feel good, it's easy to give that up. But what about the subtler forms of all these? Pride, anger, lust, envy, greed, gluttony, and sloth. And that's why it says this goes on the rest of our life. Thank God, what a joy it is to keep getting big and have God's hand in my heart bigger and bigger and bigger every day. Katie started with the set-aside prayer. Morning, God, here I am, surprise me. This is me coming to God every single morning with empty hands, saying, show me something new, God. Show me the miracle. And most of us get here in dread and fear of the unknown. Now, all God's surprises aren't exactly the way Babe likes them. The heartbreak is painful. But what beautiful lessons. I find out that I'm human. I find out that I can still bring joy and hope and light and love even when my heart is breaking. Because it's in the joy and love that we are all alike. Deep in the heart of every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. That was the last time I was here at the cartel. Deep in the heart of every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of love. And we skew it with lust. We skew it and we try to get greedy and grab more of it. And those are our character defects. So what do? You hear people practice the opposite. That's a good way to remember it. Am I feeling this? Well, that's your idea, babe. Try doing the opposite. Go to the grocery store. Talk to that old guy in the line. I'm the old guy in the line. The 8 items or less, and I got 12 items. I actually am not. I play by the rules. But, there's that person there, and there's 3 ways you can handle that deal. You can just do the roll your eyes meditation and the heavy breathing like, Or you can say, can't the stupid old goof even read? Doesn't he see the sign? Or you can do a little more spiritual. Gee, the poor old guy, it's probably his one time in the grocery store, and forgive him. I'll forgive him for having 10 items in the 8-item speed line. The most spiritual thing? Quit counting the guy's groceries. Look at his face. Ask him, what's going on today, buddy? I get to go to the grocery store, to the post office, and if I have more than 3 items, some of you know I forget everything. But I need a list because I'll just start. People want to talk. People want to smile. People want to laugh. Monica had a beautiful story. 5 hours in the Miami heat, standing outside of the Department of Motor Vehicles line. And she's helping all these old people, and thank God I don't think they do it here, but they had QR codes and forms. Monica was standing there helping old people fill out the form. 5 hours. And finally get to this DMV person. And she says, how's your day going? This woman listens to people bitch at her all day long as if it's all her fault. And Monica was the one little ray of sunshine that smiled and said, I hope you're having a good day. Thank you for doing a job that everybody hates you for. That's progress toward perfection. That's bringing light and hope and joy and love to the world. Go out there and do this. That's our responsibility. And it is both my responsibility. God will not enter a heart that is closed off. It's my responsibility to open my heart. Open the door, knock down the walls, let God in. It's my responsibility to get off my butt and demonstrate it. I can't just hide in a closet and chant Om Mani Padme Om and say I'm spiritual. What does it say? The certain trials and low spots, we enlarge our spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others. We do have a responsibility. We do have a part in this whole deal. But it is by the grace of God that I get to practice it, that I even find out what it is. So we finally get to step 7. My creator, not just the creator, my creator, the one that I didn't know existed when I got here, my personal creator. I am now ready that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. That's me. Get out of the judgment business, babe. You don't know what's good. You don't know what's bad. You thought it was terrible when you hurt your wife. And it got me to Alcoholics Anonymous, and the Alcoholics Anonymous got me to God, and God got me to all of you people. So was my biting my wife a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. But with God, even the worst things in our life can be the best thing in our life. What is the best day of our life? Monica talks about that, and she and I talk about it. Maybe the best day of my life is when I felt totally defeated. Maybe it's when I felt that I was never going to laugh, I was never going to smile. It humbled me to the point of actually being willing to try something different. Open-mindedness, willingness, the consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you if you try this. That's one of my favorite promises in the book. That's way at the beginning of the We Agnostics. Set aside my prejudice, think honestly, and search diligently in my own heart, and I can join you guys on this broad highway. And the 2 promises, the consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. What a promise! And then it says, with this attitude, you cannot fail. Even a better promise. Why would I not go through this process? Do I believe that promise? Do I doubt that promise? When we started, it seemed, are these extravagant? You bet your ass. I'm never going to smile again. But you're promising me that I can be happy and useful and whole. How many times in the book does it tell us that? That we're not just rich and famous and no money, property, and prestige, because they don't matter. Just to see the look on somebody's face in a 5th step, just to see a smile on some poor person having a bad day. And that's through Kate's whole ordeal with cancer. I was in meditation, and God took me into his world and said, babe, in my world, somebody's saying, this is the best day of my life. I fell in love. We're having a baby. And from that moment to this very moment, I realize I don't have bad days. How many of the EOs, I'm just having a bad day. No, you're not. You're having a selfish day, you goof. And thank God we've got a 12-step program that gets us out of the selfishness. So I no longer even have bad days. People die. There are tragedies in the world. And together we can weep. We can share the sorrow. We can share the heartbreak. At the same time, we can laugh and cry at the same time. We learn to multitask in here when we're with God. And that is true humility. When I find out that I only have selfish days, that's humility. When I prayed with Tim, that's humility. When Kate was in the hospital, that's why I love Katie, because that was my wife, was Katie. Best name ever. But But anyway, she was in the hospital and she was on a ventilator, and I'm praying, God, please let her live. Our life was so tough, and now it's so beautiful. Please let her live. And God was out right in the 12 and 12. He was dancing on the beach with all those naked girls in step 11. And God didn't talk to me. And so I sat there, and then I came home the next day. I'm sitting there praying to God. God, she's been on this ventilator for 4 days. If she's going to be a vegetable, please take her home with you. Once again, I think God was out bowling with angels or going fishing or creating universes or something. He wasn't hanging around talking to Babe. The third day, I found this beautiful little prayer. God's love enfolds me. His light surrounds me. His power protects me. Wherever I am, God is. And I was saying that like a mantra, and I felt the presence of God. That's when I learned that I was humbled to the point that I'd been using God like a cosmic suggestion box. And why would the creator of the universe take suggestions from a beat-up little troll that just about burned his life to the ground? God does not need Babe's suggestions. God needs Babe to seek him, to feel his presence. And that's when I learned how to pray. And that's humility. And my very favorite one, Franciscan priest wrote a book called The Franciscan Lectio. It's how St. Francis and St. Clare pray, gaze, meditate, contemplate, and act. How they read the world, how they function in the world. And it's called The Franciscan Lectio. And anyway, and he wasn't even alcoholic, but he and I got along just fine. I think all these monastic guys see me as a project. Anyway, I went to his book signing, and I hadn't seen him in about 15 years, and it was $30 for his crummy book, and I was going to say, you guys take this vow of poverty, and you got the balls to charge $30 for a book? But instead, and he got old. He was a runner and just this healthy guy, but anyway, he had a hard time getting from the podium where he spoke to the table where he was signing books. But he looked up with his little dancing Irish eyes. And he looks at me and he says, Babe, God's light is shining in you. I just about cried then. That can sound like ego. It was the most humbling thing anybody ever said to me. Wouldn't it be nice for somebody to see God's light shining in our eyes every minute of every day? How more humbling can that be? So humbling does not come from humiliation. Humbling comes from realizing that of myself, I am nothing. It's by God's hand that I get to be and do whatever he suggests, to aim toward perfection. And that, to me, whoa, I might finish with time left. The age of miracles is still with us. But that is step 7, this humility that comes in the form of grace. When I recognize the grace in my life, I'm totally humbled. Somebody just sent me, what is justice? Justice is when I get what I deserve. Mercy is when I don't get what I deserve. And grace is getting something that I never deserved to begin with. I can't earn grace, but I can recognize it. And it is in humility that I recognize God's grace every minute of every day. Well, that's a little stretch. I don't see it every minute of every day. We wouldn't need step 10 if we felt it every day. Continue to watch for this stuff. When they crop up, what do? We pray. And then we make amends, and then we talk to somebody, we confess the whole damn thing. And then the big one, the whole thing in recovery. We turn our thoughts to somebody we can help. You aren't that important, babe. Reach out your hand, change somebody's life. Let somebody see God's light in your eyes. Go to the grocery store and make somebody laugh. Go to the DMV and tell that poor person that everybody is picking on, that I appreciate them putting up with this bullshit just to be here so I can have a driver's license. Well, there's a fundamental idea of God in every single person. Some people, I can't watch the news because the world is so ugly. I can watch the world and try to see God in everyone. That's a tough exercise, by the way. All this drama in the world. And what do we get in the step 10 promises? we cease fighting everything or everyone. Everyone? Everything? Well, when they crop up, what do? We pray, we talk to someone, we make amends, and we turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Then step 10 brings us right back to step 6 and 7, where we're aiming toward this perfection which is of God. You know, because people often say, thy will, not mine, be done. But they leave out the important part of that little prayer in step 10. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. God, please take away these character defects that are blocking me off from you. Take away my pride. Take away my judgmentalism. Take away my anger. Take away my selfish, self-centered fear. What is that? I'm afraid I'm not going to get something I want, or I'm going to lose something that I already have. And then in the world of the Spirit, turns out I own nothing. I'm here by the grace of God. Money, property, prestige, nothing matters but love. And in love that is in my heart. Happiness is the outward demonstration of love. Happiness is circumstantial. Love, like gratitude, is deep in my heart. So happiness is when love bubbles out, and thankfulness is singing praise when the gratitude overwhelms my heart. And it's deep in the heart of every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. So there's where the gratitude comes. There's where the humility comes. And that's when God's light can shine in every one of our eyes. So thank you, kids. And it says EN. Does that mean enough? I didn't know enough was 2 words, but...
Thank you, babe. Thank you for your share. You were heard. Appreciate you and grateful you're here. Can we all just take a moment, please? My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out here to do your bidding. Amen. I'd now like to hand the meeting back to Babe to take us out of a prayer or a reading of your choice, please, Babe.
Well, you guys both said, babe, alcoholic. And isn't that strange? Because you said the prayer I was going to end with, and Purdy read, and you said the 10-step promises. That's what this is all about. So I'm going to end with the long form of the 12th tradition that ties into all of this. And finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we're supposed to place principles before personalities. Here's the key, that we are to practice a genuine humility. This to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. I love that one. That's the program. That's recovery. And being that you said the 7th-step prayer, let's do the 3rd-step prayer that gets us to the 7th. God, I offer myself to thee. Build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Of thy power, thy love, thy way of life, may I do thy will always.